Hey guys, how's it going? It's Dilmer again and welcome back to my channel. So first of all, thank you very much for joining the channel. I'm pretty excited to what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to start working on augmented reality, where specifically with ARKit, we're going to be creating an application using Unity that is going to allow us to capture and detect different facial gestures on the face. What I'm going to be using is blend shapes and some of the wrappers that Unity created by using ARKit in the background. So let's jump into Unity and start working on the app. And by the end of this video, we should have a very basic prototype that should allow us to capture and detect facial gestures. All right, guys, so the first thing that we need to do is actually download the Unity ARKit plugin. So to do that, we're gonna go into Bitbucket.org, Unity Technologies, Unity ARKit plugin, downloads, and I'm gonna be providing this in the description of this video. Then once you access that website, we're going to click on downloads and then download repository. You can also clone the repository if you're more comfortable with that. But for now, I'm just going to click on download repository and it's going to download a zip file. Once it's done, we're going to open it. So as it is downloading right now, I'm going to open Unity. And we're basically going to create a new face detection application. So it's going to say new. And I'm going to call it face gestures. Let me just go back and I'm just going to call it face gestures here. And then we're going to leave it as 3D. That is the path that I want to put it on. And everything else is going to be as default. And then create project. Then as it is creating the project, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the download folder and into the Unity Technologies, Unity ARKit plugin. Then we're going to go into assets. And this is the folder that I'm really going to need for the project. You can ignore everything else. And then Unity is still building the project. So we can just give it a few seconds here until it's completed. And once it's completed, we're going to drag and drop that folder into the project. Looks like it completed. And that's what I'm going to do next. Simply going to drag and drop that folder into our assets. And it's going to take a few seconds to import all the new assets. And so the goal of this project is to be able to configure gestures by using scriptable objects. So I want to be able to give you the source code that I'm going to be creating here, and you can configure any type of gestures. If you want to capture maybe, somebody has a sad face or somebody's smiling, you can do all that with this project. Okay, once you have done the movement of the Unity ARKit plugin folder, we're going to go into and expand it, then go to resources, Unity ARKit plugin, and we're going to go into the ARKit settings. You need to enable these two settings because this is what's going to allow us to create an application and also use the face tracking features. So I'm going to enable both of those settings. Perfect. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some initial setup because I know that I'm going to need some other things in here. So the first thing that I'm going to need is by right-clicking in the hierarchy, I'm going to click on UI and then we're going to go into Canvas. Once we have created a canvas, I'm going to go into my scene and I'm going to change it to 2D so that we can see the canvas. And what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to change the layout. Let me go into default. And this is going to be the layout that most people are comfortable with. Perfect. And the other thing that I need to do is go to File, Build Settings, and then let's change this to iOS. I'm going to click on Switch Platform. And it's going to take a few seconds to switch to the iOS platform. Then the other thing that I'm going to do while this is happening, let me actually go to the old project and we're going to need a couple of things, which one is going to be an image. And because I want to be able to capture a snarl gesture, so I'm going to go here to games and let's see. This is the one that we just created. Let me actually go back. I put it under apps, face detection, assets. And let me go into detail view. We're going to go into images. And these are some images that I use for capturing different things. So we're going to copy, I think I'm going to use the snarl I don't think I need any of these. These are just icons that I've been using for prototyping. All right, so I'm gonna use the snarl blue icon. So let me see if this is still loading. Oh, looks like it's completed. So it's almost done. So we go back to the file system. We can do it through that. So I'm gonna go back to personal. Still loading. Okay, let me go back here. Games, face gestures, and assets. And I'm gonna create a new folder here called images. I'm gonna go inside, and I'm just gonna basically copy the snarl blue and then paste it because we're gonna need that image. Perfect, and we can probably just close it and close it. All right, so it looks like that is converted to an iOS application. So I'm gonna delete the scene that I have right now in the scenes to be built. And the other thing that I want to do is I'm going to change this to debug and development build. I'm going to leave those settings by default, and we can close this. Then the next thing, I'm going to be renaming this scene. So let's go into sample scenes, and we can just call this one face gestures. Excellent. So, and then we also have a canvas. So I'm just going to create a new object inside of the canvas. So let's create an empty game object. We're going to call this one overlay. And you'll see why I'm doing these things, because these are going to be what's going to help us to troubleshoot and to basically configure and see some data from our gestures. So we're going to go into portrait mode, and I think I'm happy with that. And okay, perfect. And then once we have the overlay, it's just basically going to be a rect transform. And the other thing that I'm going to need also, it's going to be an expression manager. This is just going to be an empty game object for now. Excellent. So we have a canvas, we have an overlay, and in the overlay, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to go to add component, and we're gonna add a vertical layout group, and you'll see why I'm doing that, because this is basically what's going to hold all the text boxes that are tied to the specific parts of the face that we're going to be tracking. So let me go into scene view. Excellent, and I think everything here looks good. Perfect. So let me change this project, move it to the side, and move that to the side as well. Okay, and let me just change this back to portrait. Go back into scene. For some reason, this is not updating. It should be updating based on the settings that I just set, and I have display 1. Okay, perfect. It's okay. Okay, looks like it updated already. It took a minute to update, so now I can see the actual iPhone resolution, which is what I wanted. So the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this. We're going to align it right about there and right about there. So my goal is to have, basically you're gonna see values. So if I'm capturing, for example, my left cheek, if it's moving, or my nose, then each part of the body it's gonna be listed as a text box, and then you're gonna see the minimum value, you're gonna see the maximum value, and also the value that ARKit is sending to us. Okay, excellent. And I'm gonna say child control size. I'm gonna change it to height and also width. And the other thing that I'm going to do is inside the canvas, I'm going to create a new image. And this is going to be my gesture. In this case, it's just going to be a snarl, so we can just call it a snarl. But if you want to capture more, you can make this more generic and then, change those names dynamically. Okay, so perfect. And the other thing, I don't need a sprite, which I didn't set a sprite for. So I'm going to add transparency to that, and we can associate the image. Let me go into project and go into images, snarl blue, and we can change this to a sprite. Then just hit apply. You can see that now it's a sprite. And my intent is not to make this pretty whatsoever. This is just for showing you functionality. So that's how it's gonna look. And let me just go back to, we actually need to change the alpha back. Okay, and we can put these, we can make it a little bit smaller. I think it's too big. We can do something like that. I think works perfectly. Put it right there. Excellent. And I think that's good. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some of these. I'm gonna snap these to the bottom, so the anchor is gonna be in the bottom middle. And then for my overlay, I want that to be a snap on the top. Okay, excellent. And I think I'm happy with all those changes. Let's change this to be gesture. Let's make it more generic. Gesture, we can call it gesture icon. Let's just do it right. Okay, perfect. Then this is my overlay, which is going to contain all the different gestures that I'm going to be tracking. Okay, perfect. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is I need to be able to configure, you know, each part of the face that we're going to be tracking. So I'm going to be scripting for the most part. So let's go into assets, folders, and I'm going to create a scripts. And a lot of these scripts I already made. I don't want to go through and type every little thing, but I'll explain them as I create them. Okay, so this first one, it's going to be not a scene. Let me delete that scene. It's going to be a C# script. And this one is going to be called the blend shape location enum. And I'm going to open it up in Visual Studio Code in my case. And it's going to bring it down here. Perfect. And I'm not going to inherit from monoBehavior. And I'm also not going to use the start and the update method. So I'm going to copy some code that I already create, and I'm going to explain it to you. Perfect. And we just copy and paste. So the way that this works is each of these classes are serializable. The blend shape location enum, which is actually an enum, is going to tell us what type of the face we want to track. So if we want to know, you know, the brow down left, you know, what the value is. If we want to know what the cheek puff is, if we want to know the eye blink. And a lot of these ones, I didn't just invent them, they came from ARKit. So if I go and search for that, you'll see that the AR face anchor has this defined. So what I did, I turned these ones into an enum. I didn't want to do a constant just like the Unity engineers did. I thought that by doing an enum, it was going to be easy for us to configure. And you'll see how that's going to work when we do an scriptable object. So if you want to see the implementation that they did, this is how they did it, and it works great. We won't be touching that code. So the other thing that I have in here is I wanted to track basically the value for each one of these. So the way that ARKit works is the brow inner up changes, it's going to send us a value from 0 to 1. And a lot of those values are going to be in the ARKit documentation. So if I go into Google and we type in ARKit Apple, and we can basically say blend shape, and I'll put this link as well in the description, you can kind of see that some of these ones, some of this documentation is already defined. So it'll tell you here, if you want to capture, you know, the eye blink left or the eye blink right, you can click on it. It'll tell you the values that it's sending. So if the eye blink right has a value of 0, then that means that, you know, it's complete. It's not, basically it's at the minimum. If it has a value of 1, then it means that it's at the maximum. So you kind of see that it's completely almost closed down. It's actually closed when it's a 1, and it's all the way, you know, all the way open when it's a 0. So a lot of this documentation is going to be really helpful when it comes to testing. You can kind of see that you can track other parts of the face. So some of these ones are here as well. So you can see that if I search for example, I search for this one is going to be here. So if I do eye, you can see eye blink left and eye blink right. It's also here. Perfect. So going back to the blend shape range class, we're going to have a low bound. So the low bound is going to be our minimum value, and the upper bound is going to be our maximum value. And then this is going to help us detecting, you know, how many times we're detecting this type of gesture. And then we're also going to have a blend shape location enum, which is going to be set to not set by default, which is going to be basically this type. Okay, excellent. So I'm talking a lot, and I'm sorry if I'm going too fast, guys, but don't worry because I'm going to be posting this code in GitHub. So the next thing that I need to do is I'm going to create a scriptable object. So we're going to go back into Unity, and I'm going to create a new scriptable object here. We're going to say C# script, and this one I'm going to call expression configuration. Perfect. I'm going to open it up, and I'm also going to paste that code here. And if you look at it, the default value, so the way that the scriptable object works is actually going to create a file in Unity in the file system. So by default, the file name is going to be called expression, and I'm going to allow people, basically whoever is designing the game or the app, to have a menu item. So the menu is going to be under expressions, and this is going to be the menu option, and the order is going to be 1. So when they click on it, it's going to create a file of this type, and it's going to basically expose these variables. It's going to expose an expression name and also an array of blend shapes, because the reason why I want an array is because I want to be able to capture a combination of them. So if I'm doing a snarl, I might be changing the way that my eye is moving, or my cheek is moving, the way that my mouth is moving. So you need to do an array because we need to capture multiple of those, which the combination of those is what's going to make an expression. Okay, excellent. So now let's go into Unity, and we're going to create a new script, which is going to be basically the one that is going to do most of the work. And this one is going to be called the expression manager. Actually, let me go back into the code. I didn't explain it to you very well. I did tell you that this was an expression name variable, and this was an array, but you want to make sure that these are serializable as well. The reason why this needs to be serializable is because we want to expose that through the inspector. The same way with the blend shape location, I explained it to you, but I didn't tell you about serializable. These two need to be serializable if you want to be able to change it through the inspector. So just remember that as we go and create a new expression. Okay, perfect. So now let's go back into, let's actually go into our files in here, and I'm going to go into my expression manager, and I'm going to copy the code that I created for that, paste it, and I'm going to make some changes before I explain it to you, because you're not going to need all this. I just had some extra variables that I don't think that you're going to need. So let me see, you're not going to need that. I'm also going to remove some of this. And also, the reason why I'm removing this is because I don't need to have a game object on my left eye and right eye. I don't think that's the purpose of this video, so I'm just going to get rid of this, and then I'll explain to you how the code works. Just search for update eye location. Perfect. And the code is pretty straightforward, and you'll see as I show it to you. Let me just clean everything up. Expression capture, yep, I'm using that as well. Okay, excellent. Let me just zoom in a tiny bit more, because I think some of this code is gonna be very important to you. So there are a couple of things. So the expression manager, the responsibility of this class is to capture expressions that ARKit is sending. So basically, ARKit is gonna be sending a dictionary of keys and values. So a key will represent what we have in here. So let me just snap this on the right, and we can have the expression manager on the left. We don't need to see the hierarchy. So okay, perfect. Let me just move it a little bit. So the way that this is going to work, the current blend shapes variable, like I was saying, is going to be a dictionary. This is going to be a string. The representation of the string is going to be a blend shape location. So for instance, if I'm moving, if my eye blink underscore left has a value of 1, this is going to have that as a string, which is going to be that name, and the value, it's going to be represented by the value that ARKit is sending. So if I am blinking and I am in the max value, so the max value is going to be stored there, or the minimum value can be stored there. Then the other thing that I did here too is I have a dictionary of text boxes, because if somebody has, if somebody's tracking that, I want to see the value in a text box. The reason why I want to do that is because during development, you may want to see those values before you actually finalize what your expression is going to be. So now that you know what I'm talking about here, I'm going to just remove it. So that's what these two are. And the Unity AR session native interface, this is what ARKit is providing to us. Actually, Unity is providing that to us as a wrapper to the ARKit interface. And this is going to allow us to start a new session so that we can start capturing some of the data the ARKit is sending us. And then I have some extra variables in here that I don't think I need to cover. And then this is the basic initialization of ARKit Face Tracking configuration. You're going to be able to see these, and you're going to basically repeat that code. This is very straightforward. And also, these are some bindings that I do. So if the AR face anchor added event is executed, I'm going to call that method. If the updated event is executed, I'll call the face update. If the anchor is removed from the face, I'm going to call that method. So that's all pretty straightforward. It's basically boilerplate for configuration. Then the other thing that I'm saying here, if I don't have any expression set up, then I'm basically going to exit out because there's really no reason to call any of these other methods. Then the next one is very important because this is the one that is going to basically create all the text boxes that you're going to see on the screen. So the way that it's going to work is I'm going to basically loop through each expression configuration. So if we create a new expression configuration that is going to be called a snarl, it's going to have multiple blend shape ranges. So as I loop through each range, I'm going to create a game object and I'm going to create a text box. And then basically I'm going to associate that text box with the dictionary so that we can track it and we can make changes as the expression is changing. So you can kind of see that I'm changing here the range go text.text, and I'm sending a format debug text, which you'll see on the very top, which has the minimum, the maximum, and also the value the ARKit is sending to us. All right, so that's what this does, is basically just create the debug overlays for us. And then a couple of other methods that I described above is the face added, the face updated, and the face remove. So all this is doing is if I add, if my face is started to get tracked, then I'm grabbing the value that I'm getting from the anchor data, which is a dictionary of string and flow, as I show you above, and then I'm setting the current blend shapes to that. I also set a blend shapes enable. Oh, and I actually need to fix this because this is actually misspelled. So this is actually needs to be blend shapes enable. So that just determines if I enable the blend shapes, if I'm capturing data, then the rest of the code knows that I actually started capturing somebody's faces. And then on the update, I just keep updating because ARKit is sending me a lot of data. And then if I'm not tracking the face anymore, I'm basically saying, okay, I stopped tracking blend shapes. Perfect. And then the next thing that I have in here is I'm actually going to remove the sensitivity because I don't think we need that for this example. And we do need the expression indicator. And this was something that I had in there because I needed to change the percentage of how much, how accurate I wanted the face tracking to be. So we don't need that. And then I also need to modify some of these variables. So let me remove some of this, and it's going to simplify that code for you as well. And we can remove this as well. And we don't need parentheses there. Excellent. Okay, so I think I'm good to go. All right, so this delay timer and delay 4, it's basically a timer that I set up because ARKit is sending a lot of data. They're sending data on every frame. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't capturing, I wasn't trying to detect an expression that fast. So instead of, I have a timer that I say, okay, every other second I'm gonna capture, I'm gonna get the data from ARKit, and whatever they're sending me after 1 second, I'm gonna try to see if I have expression. All right, so the next thing that I want to show you is the detect expression method. So this is the one that is doing most of the work. You can kind of see that I'm looping through each expression configuration, just like I did right above to create the overlays. I am saying, okay, did I capture an expression? So I set a Boolean value to false by default. And then for each blend shape ranges that I have, I loop through it. I get the blend shape name from the range, and then I determine if ARKit is sending me that key. If I have that key in the dictionary, it means that ARKit is detecting, is detecting a change on that part of my face. So if it does detect that change, then I try to get the, well, actually get the text box that is associated with that blend shape, and then I also get its value. And then what I do here is I determine if those values are within my, my lower bound, my upper bound. If they are, then that means that I'm capturing, that I actually captured that specific not the expression as a whole, but that specific part of my face. So if my cheek value that I set up, it's between the boundaries, then I set the text color of the field to red, and then I increment the detection count. The reason why I added this detection count is because I wanted to know how many times I was actually detecting that change on my face. If that is not the case, meaning that I wasn't between those bounds, the text box is actually going to be white. And basically at the end I said, okay, the expression wasn't captured, and if I am between those bounds, then I set the expression capture equal to true. So that's really most of the work there. And then at the end, all I do is this expression indicator is basically what's going to display the icon that I show you that we actually added, which was the snarl. And the way that this works is it's going to determine if all the values in the current shape UIs are set to color red, meaning that all of those ones are set to red. That means that I actually was able to capture all the different pieces that make up the expression. So then I'll see, as a result, we'll see the actual icon show, which is why I'm calling set active. So that's basically all the code. So let me actually go through, and we're going to be setting up a new expression. So let's go to Unity, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new folder called expressions. So let's call it expressions and give it a second. Perfect. And let's double click on the folder, and I'm going to click on create. And you can see that I have an expression option. This expression option is the one that we created. So if we click on it, you can see that it's going to create a new expression, and I'm going to call this one snarl. Excellent. And I'm going to move the project to the left side so we can see. So this is going to be a snarl. And this is the expression configuration basically in the works. You can see that I'm exposing an expression name, and I'm also exposing an array of blend shape ranges. So if I say 1 here, I can add a new element. And the cool thing with this is I can actually say, okay, you know what? I want to start tracking the eye blink left. And I think that for this expression, it's going to be, the lower bound is going to be 0.2. The upper bound is going to be 1. And now what's going to happen is if I go into here and we hit play, and I actually need to make another change before we do this. So I didn't add the expression manager. So let's go into the expression manager game object, and we're going to be typing expression manager. Perfect. And you can see that my expression configurations are now available here. So if I go back to the snarl, and let's go into my expression manager as well, and I'm gonna set this to 1. So if I go back to the snarl, you see that I have some properties available here. If I go to my expression manager, you can see that I can now connect the expression manager to a snarl, and I can actually drag it and drop it. The cool thing about this is completely configurable, so I don't need to change anything here to be able to make this work. So if I go, I also need to associate the expression indicator, which is going to be that. And if I need to, I also need to set this one to disable, because we're going to be activating it only when we capture an expression. Perfect. And let me go back into here to my overlay and my expression manager, double click on the snarl, and we can go back to this. So you can kind of see that if I want to set a snarl, I can add, okay, I want to be, tracking, for example, that. And if I want to add another part of the face, I can say, okay, I want to add a new element. Let's say that my eye blink needs to be between those two, and it's going to have the same values. Let's say that I wanted to add, maybe I want to track the mouth, and we can go here and say, okay, I want to know, the mouse press value needs to be, maybe that needs to be 0.5 to 1, and then I can go so on and make those changes. So if we go back to our canvas and our overlay, and what I'm going to do is, so I have my overlay here, And let's go into the scene view and I hit play. You make sure that everything is working. It looks like everything is working. So that is really, really cool. Let me make some changes in here because otherwise these are not gonna fit. Let me change this to be about -1000 on the spacing. -1000, and we can hit play. And I show you that I can create overlays dynamically. So this is what this is doing. It's determining what kind of expressions do I have. Okay, I have a snarl. What text boxes do I need to create? So you can kind of see I created a eye blink left and eye blink right, which maps to these two. And I also created a mouth press left. And I also have the minimum and the value, which is 0.5 and then 1, and also the value. So the cool thing with this is the way that this is going to work is once I build it to my iOS device, I'm going to be able to see, okay, if this is turning red based on what I'm doing with my face, then I know that this expression is getting captured. So this is going to be helpful because when you're debugging or you're troubleshooting, you're going to be able to capture a specific gesture and then be able to create and get some of those parameters out as you test the application. Okay, so that's basically that piece. And I saved some of those values in a script that I have. So let me go into that, and I'm gonna be copying some of those values because I really don't wanna have to determine those because it took me some testing to be able to do that. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reveal this in Finder. And the cool thing with these scriptable objects is that they're actually just files. So if I wanna open that in Visual Studio Code, what I'm gonna do is just drag and drop that there. And you can see that this is just basically an array. Well, it kind of has its own format. I guess it's a YAML. So I already have some of these already set. So I'm going to delete this piece and then add the values that I have. Save it. So you can see that I have 3 different blend shapes, and these are mapped to different parts of the face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close that, and you can see I can go back into Unity, go back here. And now I can see, let me go ahead and make sure that I did save this file. Let me just go here. Oh, I didn't want to save that file. That's the file on the, let me just do, okay, no, I did save the file correctly. Okay, excellent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close Unity just to make sure that everything gets set correctly. And let me make sure, yeah, this is the right file. Drag it and drop it. It's saved, so I'm going to close. Go back into Unity because I don't know if those files, if I change them that way, it's going to get reloaded. Let's go back into our project. Excellent. Now we can click on Snarl, and looks like I am capturing multiple. So I didn't see these ones expand, these ones collapse, and these ones. So there's actually more. Okay, perfect. So to make a snarl, I have an array of 7, and these are all the different parts of my face. I'm tracking the nose left, the nose is near right, the mouth, and all of these pieces work well for capturing a snarl. So I had to do a lot of testing to be able to get to that place. So now if I go into my game and I hit play, you can kind of see, and let me change the spacing because I think it's too tight. Okay, let's do 650, -650. Okay, perfect. And okay, excellent. And the other thing that I'm gonna do, because we're not gonna test this in Unity, I'm gonna test it on my device, and I'll show you that as I run it on the device. Just make sure that this is gonna fit. Okay, yeah, this should all fit just fine. All right, guys. So let me jump into my device. I'm gonna build this scene. So to do that, let's do one more thing. So click on iOS. I'm actually gonna add this scene to my build settings. Make sure that everything is set to debug, just in case we need to do any troubleshooting. And because this is gonna be a face, an AR application, you need to do one thing that is very important. You need to go under camera, usage description, and you have to put some text in there. I'm just gonna say face tracking app. Excellent. I'm also going to change some of these bundle identifiers, and then face tracking. Also the version, it's going to say, okay, this is version 1.000. I think everything else should be fine. And also the company, let's just say, okay, my company, Delmar Games, LLC. And all of that looks fine. Okay, excellent. And I guess we can add an icon that I had on the other project. So let me pull that. So I'm gonna go into personal apps, face detection, assets, and then images. And we can use this icon, cool icon that I created, that is very simple. Okay, so let's go back into assets, images, and we're just gonna drag it and drop it there. And I'm gonna need that, so let me paste it back in that project. Okay, perfect. Let's go back into Unity, and I'm just going to add that icon, which we have right now here. Perfect. And I think everything, now we can see that everything looks fine. I don't think we need to add any of those. I think that will be sufficient. And I think we're good. Just check a couple of things. Okay, so there's one more thing that we need to add to this scene to make it work. And that is, we need to go into examples. And I'm gonna go into the, let's see, let me change this view to be this way, and then also go into face tracking. And I'm gonna go into the face blend shape scene, and in here I'm going to copy some values. I need the camera parent, and I also need, so you only need the camera parent and also the AR camera tracker, and we don't need any of the other two. So I'm going to do that and then go back into our main scene, and I'm just going to paste it, and we're going to delete the ones that we had in there already. Excellent. And I'm just going to move them up. So these two components are really important because one is going to be the main camera, and it's going to have the Unity AR video. So this is Unity implementation of ARKit, and then also the Unity AR camera near far, and also the AR camera tracker. So these are components that Unity provides that we need to have in our scene. So now we're ready to build the application into iOS. So I'm going to go to build settings, hit build, and then I'm going to replace the one that I already created before, and I'm just going to say append, and we're just going to let it build. Shouldn't take too long. Alright guys, so here's the application. So let's just press it and open it, and it looks like it's working. So you can kind of see that if I start moving my cheek a little bit, and if I do kind of a mad face, as you can see, the values are changing. So you can see the reds as they turn. So if I move my cheek a little bit and then go mad, there we go. So that's what I wanted to show you guys. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. I know I cover a lot of code, and it was just I went through fast. But if you have any questions, let me know through the comments. I'm gonna be posting the code in GitHub, so you can download it, you can play with it, you can do anything that you like with that code. It's completely free, and I love if you use it. And if you use it, let me know, because I'll be happy to find out that somebody else found value in what I'm providing. So thank you very much, guys, and don't forget to share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.